All right, here we go. Another Training Tip Tuesday. Corey Chris coming to you with today's topic, which is fueling for endurance sports. Now, this is probably the question that I get asked most from the athletes that I work with. It is an incredibly involved topic, and I will say large topic. I'll probably circle back and do a full presentation on this in the upcoming weeks, but just going to scratch the surface today, hopefully give you enough that you can start playing with some of these ideas, concepts, fueling in your training, and then we can continue to refine from there. So today we are going to talk about why fueling is important, what should you be fueling with, how much, and when. So digging right into the why, we always start with why. Well, obviously it should be obvious. Obviously, it should be obvious that if you want to sustain your energy right to the end of your workout, right to the end of your race, again, refueling all the energy that you're burning or refueling for the energy that you're burning is incredibly important. And essentially what we're trying to do is maintain our glycogen stores. So that's our stored carbohydrates in our muscle, in our liver, in our blood. And the higher we can keep that, or I'll say the more balanced we can keep that, the better you will feel, the more energy that you'll have, and the higher quality of performance you'll be able to put out, whether it's in a workout or in a race. So that's why it's incredibly important. It's also incredibly important for recovery. Now, when we're training, we're trying to recover as quick as possible and string as many quality workouts together as we can. So if you are able to stay on top of your fueling, maintain those glycogen stores, you will be able to turn higher quality workouts a lot quicker, which will improve your overall training. So that will be the why. And of course, it becomes more and more important the longer the training session or longer the event. So once you get up above 2 hours, that's when we're really going to start focusing on it. But even shorter sessions, 1 hour, keeping those glycogen stores up, especially if it's a high intensity workout, will again help you turn those workouts over quicker. Definitely as you get into the 3, 4, 5, 6 hour either workouts or events, multi-day stages, etc., fueling actually is probably just as important as your training, because it doesn't matter how fit you are, if you don't nail your fueling, you are in trouble. So what should you be fueling with? There are two ends of the spectrum. So we have liquids and we have solids. And then of course in the middle, we have that blend of two, which might be, primarily gels. That's usually the go-to for endurance athletes. Now, fluids are going to be the quickest absorbed, the most easily absorbed by your body. And you're going to be able to get that energy out in about 10 to 15 minutes. So if you're constantly drinking that sport drink every 10 to 15 minutes, you should have nice sustained energy across the duration of your either your training session or your event. Now, you may not be able to consume as many calories as you are burning just through liquids alone. And especially if it's a cooler day and you're struggling to drink, say, 2 bottles of sport drink, well, you may need to start shifting up the scale a bit. So the next go-to is usually gels. Again, gels, you're going to be able to extract that energy a little quicker than the solids. It's not going to be as quick as the fluids, so you might be looking at that around half-hour mark to get that energy out of the gel. But if you're taking them consistently, again, usually they recommend every 45 minutes or so, then you should have nice sustained energy across your session as well. On the far end of the spectrum, we have solids. Solids, you're going to be able to extract that energy anywhere from 1 to 3 hours. So obviously, if you are eating solids in a shorter workout or race, you're probably going to see zero benefit in that workout or race. You will only start getting that energy back at the end. So especially if it's a higher intensity type effort you're trying to put in, solids probably will do you no good whatsoever. Now, if you are going ultra long and you're not worried too much about performance, because it does take energy to break down anything, and obviously it takes more energy to break down solids. So you will be drawing energy away and blood away from the working muscles to aid in that digestion process. So again, there is a trade-off there. But again, you can play with everything. How much is a very important question, and there's a lot of variables that will impact how much. So athlete size will be important. Obviously, the smaller athlete won't need as much as the bigger athlete. Intensity is the other important variable, where the higher the intensity, the faster you're going to be burning through those glycogen stores, and the more you're going to have to consume. Now, there is no limit to how much you can consume. Well, I guess there is a limit to how much you can consume, but you can consume a lot more than your body may be able to actually absorb. So it's really the absorption limitation that is your major limiter than it is how much stuff you can stuff in your mouth. So typically, I'll say on the low end of the scale, athletes on a regular, I'll say regular diet. I will preface this by saying if you're on a ketogenic diet and you see carbs up there, this doesn't apply to you. You are on a totally different track. And basically, if you're not familiar with the ketogenic diet, it is a fat-based diet where you are training your body to be able to utilize fat for energy a lot more effectively, as well as ketones for your brain's energy, which typically only uses carbohydrates, I'll say again, on a regular diet. And that is, when I said I'd come back and talk about hitting the wall or bonking, that essentially what happens when you hit the wall or bonk is your glycogen stores are so low, your carbohydrates are so low, your brain is going, sorry body, we need them for energy. So it shuts the body down. It makes you feel terrible, like you want to stop. And the brain takes all the energy, because if it doesn't, you're going to pass out. And we don't want that happening either. And it's not until you can, take in some of those carbohydrates, refill the glycogen a bit, and once your brain is satisfied, it has enough energy, it will allow your body to turn back on. So that's what we're trying to avoid all the time. And again, the more that we can maintain those glycogen stores at the same level as when we started, the better you'll feel throughout the day. So you're always going to be working at a little bit of a deficit. So as you are working hard, you're burning glycogen, you're trying to fuel to limit the decrease in that glycogen. But again, your body may not be able to absorb as much as you're burning. So the other fuel that you're going to burn when you are doing endurance activities is going to be fat. And that should, or hopefully, make up the difference, but it depends on your intensity level. So fueling and pacing go hand in hand. If you are working harder and you are burning through more than you're able to consume in carbohydrates, eventually, or absorbing carbohydrates, eventually, if you go long enough, you're going to hit the wall. So the only option is to max out how much you're able to take in, and then lower the intensity so that you're making up the deficit by burning fat. So that's what you also have to play with in your workouts, is not only how much fuel do I need, but at what pace should I be going so that I feel good right to the end of, again, a workout or an event. So in terms of generalities, I will say usually on the low end, it's 30 grams of carbohydrates, all the way up to the high end, which some athletes have trained their body, and using multiple different sources of carbohydrates can even go up to 120 grams per hour of carbs. Looking at calories, on the low end, you might be at 200 calories per hour that your body can absorb, all the way up to the high end where you might be getting up to the 600 calories per hour. Again, depending on your size and your training, that's, round the top of the scale there. So if you are working at a high intensity, you are burning, say, for example, we'll say 700 calories an hour, but you're only able to absorb 400, you have a deficit of 300 calories, which if you're only doing 2 hours, you're going to be okay. You're going to get to the end, your glycogen stores will be depleted, but you're not going to bonk. Now, if you're going longer than that, you may find that, you're not going to make it. So you have one option and one option only, and that's to go slower. And you can do that preemptively, or you can wait for your body to go, Nope, I'm deciding for you. Or sorry, your brain to go. Nope, I'm deciding for you. And body, you are turning off. So that is in terms of how much fuel. In simplistic terms, if you are taking a bottle or two or sport drink, again, shorter workouts, you'll probably be okay. If you're going a little bit longer, you might want to take that bottle or two of sport drink plus a gel every 40-45 minutes. If you're going longer than that, you'll want to do that. And you may also want to add in a little bit of solids as well. So that would be my recommendation for going longer and longer and longer. When should you fuel? Obviously, if you can start ahead, you're going to be ahead. So taking in that sport drink, say half hour before you actually start your first workout or you start your workout or your race, that would be a great idea. Obviously, you will also have hopefully breakfast or lunch or dinner maybe, depending on when you're training, in the system as well, working its way through. And definitely try to get the solids in at least in 1 to 3 hours before you start your training session or your event. So if you're training in the morning, try to get that breakfast in early. Or if you don't have time for breakfast, maybe keep it a little lighter, hit the sport drink. You can even do gels and stuff before any morning training sessions or events. And that'll just prime the system. Something's in there ready to go, already started the process. And you might actually be overly topped up before, again, you get going. Now, obviously, during the session, you can consume whatever the appropriate amount is that you will have to test and tweak in training. And then after, usually after is go protein. Protein shakes, rebuild the muscle. But I'll actually challenge that thought and say go carbohydrates as soon as you finish. Think, get the glycogen stores back up. Your body's going to be hungry for that energy. It's going to, again, rebuild those glycogen stores so that you can turn over a quality workout sooner. Once you brought in some of the carbohydrates, then you can start introducing the proteins and the fats. Again, the proteins to rebuild the muscle. Fats are in everything. Okay, not in everything, but they'll come along for the ride. And then hopefully, again, you should be good to turn workouts or feel better after your race. Timing after, if you can start consuming anywhere from 15 to half hour, 45 minutes after your training session, that's when your body is going to be most excited to reabsorb all those calories. So timing matters. That is it for scratching the surface. As promised, a little longer, a little more involved, but hopefully you can implement some of these fueling strategies in your training right away. And hopefully on race day, you have the best performance possible. So until next time, happy training. Take care.